Okay, deep in the heart of Texas. No, deep in the white matter of the brain. Uh, we have these things called basal nuclei. They're deep in the central white matter. They take care of a lot of automatic learned behavior, muscle tone, learned movements, rhythmic movements, and they work with the cerebellum, the little brain. So the basal nuclei, the amygdaloid body, I'm not going to ask you about any of these, but you'll have to know the function of the thalamus, which is a relay point for a lot of information getting to the cerebral hemispheres. Because the lower the brain, the more automatic the function. The higher the brain, the more and complex the function of the brain. If we look at the basal nuclei, again, they're just want to know that they're in the white matter below all the gray matter of the uh, surface of the brain. Remember, the corpus callosum is the white matter that connects the two hemispheres. Then we have a limbic system, emotions. This is classically called the reptile brain. Okay, so the cerebral cortex is linked to this system for automatic and reflexes. Apparently, that's where your long term memory is. So, the limbic system, the hippocampus, uh, we're not going to, we're going to have to know the olfactory tract, the corpus callosum, the thalamus, the mammillary body, the hypothalamic uh, nuclei, and we'll get into more of those in a minute. Okay, the diencephalon. What is the diencephalon? So it's a relay point, integration of conscious and unconscious motor activity and sensory activity. What is the diencephalon? So you start with the thalamus. You have the optic tract, the nerves coming from the back of the eye. We'll talk about the superior colliculus, the anterior colliculus. So the diencephalon is the thalamus, uh, hypothalamus, and we'll look at it in another view. We will have to know the general function of all the cranial nerves. These are called cranial nerves because they have their origin in the cranium, in the diencephalon. Uh, when we do the sheep, when we look at the sheep brain, we'll be able to see these structures very carefully. Medulla oblongata is famous for the water boy. Okay, so we'll keep going. Choroid plexus is where cerebral spinal fluid is produced. The superior and inferior colliculus are involved in auditory control and vision control. It has more choroid plexus to produce cerebral spinal fluid. So what does the thalamus do? It takes all of the sensory information that we get in our world, and I just read an article that spiders use their spider web to extend their brain. Okay, so again, relay and filter ascending information on the senses, everything from heat, touch, pressure, pain, full bladder, full gut, lung function, heart function. All that information is constantly being relayed through the thalamus to the cerebral hemispheres. Okay, the hypothalamus is basically at the base of the thalamus, So what does it do? Emotions and behavioral drives, coordinates between the nervous system and hormones, voluntary and autonomic functions, regulates body temperature. So the brain stem, midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata, process visual and auditory information through the superior colliculus and inferior colliculus. Pons means bridge, connects to the cerebellum. The medulla oblongata takes care of sensory information and autonomic function. So all of the things that happen automatically taking place in the lowest part of the brain, but we can't breathe, we can't have all of our automatic functions without the medulla oblongata. So the cerebellum, posture, patterns of movements, links to the brainstem, cerebrum. So it's connected to the spinal cord, and on the other side, it's connected to the right around the pons, and cerebellum's called the little brain. We just talked about the medulla oblongata. Helps control the heart and breathing. Also is a relay place for sensory information to get to the cerebral cortex when we have to have final decision making, executive action, knowledge of what's happening to us. Okay, so we have all these brain regions. As you start from medulla oblongata, go up to the cerebrum and to the cerebral hemispheres. So the bottom line is that the medulla oblongata and the hypothalamus and the pons and a lot of those are automatic function that we never think about. Peripheral nervous system. It's in the outside of the central nervous system, carries all sensory information to the brain, and motor axons, motor commands to move. A lot of our activity is controlled by, again, all of the information coming in and the information going out. The basal nuclei are an example of gray matter in the white matter, and the peripheral nervous system includes all of the cranial and spinal nerves. So the cranial nerves, there are 12 pairs. You should know the names of each nerve, the general function, and the number. There'll be a lot of WebAssign questions on these cranial nerves. So make sure you know those. So the cranial nerves all originate from the medulla oblongata in the pons and so on. So you'll have pictures in WebAssign similar to this. You should know the name of the nerve, the number, and the general function. So we start with the olfactory bulb. This is where this sits right on top of the nasal cavity, all the way down to the vagus nerve number 10, which is the wanderer. So this goes all over the place, the vagus nerve. It wanders into the chest, into the gut, and it's a very, very important nerve. So do we have somebody just coming in? We sure do. Okay, so the 12 cranial nerves smell, sight, hearing and balance, control of the eye, jaw, face, muscles of the neck, and so on, sensation for the face, and uh, upper chest, and the automatic functioning of the thoracic and abdominal pelvic organs. It will stop there and record this. Stop recording. I posted the last recordings.